It's the right code and the right charts. Though your art is very lovely, it's got new parts.
Hey there, Matt.
Hello, Brian. Here we are again.
Here we are again. So, you know, we've been talking about AI and artists and creativity for a while now. And I was watching one of my favorite shows on YouTube, StarTalk, with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he had a guest on there, Brian Greene, who is one of the main proponents of string theory. He's another scientist who I also really enjoy. Two of the smartest guys around. And they actually they had a small short segment where they were actually talking about what we've been talking about, and I thought it'd be interesting to watch that and see what they have to say.
Okay, so let me just get clear on this. And full disclosure, Brian, you let me know that we might talk about this, but I haven't heard it yet or nor seen it. And so what it appears to me is that we're going to have two sciencey guys talking about the effects of AI on creativity and artists.
Yes. Yep. And there's a third guy, Chuck Nice, who is kind of the co-host with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's not a scientist, he's a comedian, but he's also he discusses things with the other two guys. So
more importantly, make this about me. You know me. Is this going to make me scared or angry or both?
I will say that it's interesting. I think that you will find it interesting that these two top scientists in the world are talking about it.
Okay.
Your response to it is, I think we better wait and see.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just wanted to prepare myself.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm prepared.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead and share and optimize for a video clip. And here we go.
Or taking it to the world. And what I enjoyed most about the several that I've attended is the effort to bring the arts into it in a meaningful way. There are many artists who I would later learn are not rare, who are inspired by science and the universe and discoveries, and they will compose dance and music. And you have a mixture of these sessions.
We do. I mean, the goal is to have science feel connected to everything that matters to us. And of course, culture is a big part of it.
Culture and arts matter to everybody.
In fact, now with AI, we're doing a program on the arts in the age of artificial intelligence. So how is AI changing how artists approach their work and how scientists think about art?
There'll be more unemployed artists.
Well, yeah, but it's a funny thing.
No,
People say
not
that.
paid. They won't be unemployed. They just won't be paid.
Yeah, but whenever new technology comes along, like the camera, people are like, okay, now you don't need artists anymore because anyone can just click. But there are artists who use the camera to create things that mere mortals can't.
And there are painters who actually take a picture and then they actually paint the picture as opposed to having someone sit for a portrait.
But that wasn't the biggest issue. The biggest thing, the biggest force operating was you no longer needed the artist to portray reality, because of course the camera captured that. So that freed the artist.
Yeah, that's right.
To portray impressionistic scenes.
Reality.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not what the scene looks like. It's what the scene feels like.
It's the interpretation.
That matters.
And it's huge. I mean, that's what is the magic in so much expression, right? It's what we do with it as opposed to just literally depicting what's out there. So there are many people who project that AI is going to create, a new kind of art.
Yeah.
Just the way the camera did.
Just the way the camera did. So that has to shake out. I still need to see.
I think AI it just accelerates creativity. It doesn't replace it, because what happens is you have associations that are being made at a level that you as a human being would maybe eventually over a course of years, you might make those associations, but the computer can do it almost instantaneously. Right. And then you take that and you say, what does that mean to me?
Okay, so it pushes you along.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is if you have a computer creating so much, there's a lot of chaff, that you have to separate out.
That's so true.
So,
There's chaff even when people do.
Hmm. They seem very smart to me.
Those guys are, yeah, they're brilliant. They're
They're
brilliant.
wicked smart,
Yeah.
as they say where I grew up. So what I'm seeing is perception from a perspective that is, I would say, to one degree, prejudiced towards the influence of anything based in mathematics and science.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not saying that's absolutely what's going on, and these are very smart people. I imagine they're sensitive, very sensitive too, of course, and they're out there in the public too, so they get called on their stuff probably all the time, as much as anybody else who puts up a YouTube video.
Yep.
So that's one of my concerns, is that, and it makes sense. They're mathematicians and scientists. They have an interpretation of that felt limited to me, to say that the camera came along and freed up artists so that they didn't have to create representative art anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's not exactly what happened. It's far more nuanced, and I will still hold. And it's not that I have to hold to it. This is not an appropriate
Analogy.
metaphor.
No, it is
Analogy.
not. It is not a good analogy. Also,
The
there's
comparison that the camera came along, and because and Neil does bring it up, Mr. DeGrasse does bring it up. He says this is a replacement of the artist, and they didn't go down that road that far.
right. It's funny how that was their first response or first inclination to make comments about it, but then they also non photographic, non representational art was going on way before the camera.
Right.
The Aztecs were not making representational art. The Egyptians, the
Hokusai's, wood prints.
any yeah. So that the camera was not. Now the camera may have helped move along some art movements that were more expressive. But yeah, you're right. The camera is not analogous to AI in its impact.
So they just bought that kind of hook, line, and sinker. Not kind of, they did. They just went,
Yep.
okay, same thing as camera. Let's go down that road. They
Right.
didn't, and so it would have been nice. And I think that the guy sitting further on my right on this, was he both an artist and a scientist? Who was that?
The Caucasian guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Brian Greene. He is just a scientist, but he is one of the world's top scientists, and he's involved in uh, one of the main proponents of string theory. But he has been trying to bring arts into some of the science events that he has and hosts and promotes.
Okay,
He's
that's
trying to bring
cool.
art, yeah, which is cool. Yeah,
And I think, I have admiration. I didn't know the gentleman in the middle, and I heard more from, you said his name is Green? Last name is
Brian
Green?
Greene. Yeah,
Brian Greene. Yeah, he did a lot of the talking. The guy in the middle who had on the Captain America t-shirt,
yeah,
um, he, I didn't hear as many, like he wasn't putting forward some topics to go down that road. He was just like commenting on,
yeah.
so my concern is that math and science, the realm of math and science, is so geeked about, I said it before, it's like that, stuck his finger in the who's that guy who's pulled out a plum on his
Oh
thumb,
yeah, Tom Thumb.
right? They're very proud of themselves. They've made this plum of a thing, and they're really excited about all the fun things it's going to do. But they did make the joke of unemployed too, which
Yeah.
is insulting to me.
Hmm.
You're talking about pain, guys, real pain for many people.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
Commercial art, commercial creativity is, I mean, pull that out as you pull the rug from underneath that, that's massive. That's like impacts.
But I can't go too far
Huge.
down the
Yeah.
road of judging them because,
Right,
you know,
right.
I've
It's not
made
their
plenty of
field.
jokes. I make jokes about science or whatever on here
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I've done plenty of that stuff. So, but it just, when I heard that, I was like, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I thought that there was a good point Brian Greene made in that what is the effect of AI in that it's creating so much instantaneously on demand that we're just getting we're just beginning to see the tidal wave and flood of art and music and everything else, and what effect is that going to have? He called it chaff.
Yes.
Which it is. I mean, it's got to, but.
And then Mr. DeGrasse said, yeah, well, there's chaff from human generation too, you know, I mean, like, but it's just, this is exponentially faster and multitudinous. It's like,
Yeah, and it's not coming from people. Yeah, it's like comparing a dripping faucet with a fire hose.
So I think that have you noticed more? I'll come back to this clip, but one of the things I'm noticing too is that the things that you and I, when we first started talking, saying that we started to realize that the curve was doing more like this than like this. When would this get out into the general public and start to be conversations on social networking? So that's been going on for a couple of months now. Certainly since like late winter, more and more people are bringing it up. And I'm seeing more and more people put things on social networking who now they don't care. They got called on it. Their artist friends would say, look, you're taking, and like, oh, so what? You know?
Yep. I'm seeing that. I'm also seeing, I don't know if you remember, but as we started talking about this, we were saying, okay, you know, right now it looks like it's affecting a small subset of people, like, you know, illustrators was, you know, a big one, and we were saying, yeah, but it's coming for a lot more.
Yeah.
Now that the music stuff is so good, now that the graphic design stuff is so good, now that the video is poised to be incredible, the I mean, the editing and the programming it can do now. I don't know if you saw this. This would be another thing that we could talk about at some point too, as an aside. But it's now building web pages and internet stuff instantly. So if you want, it's almost like you can access a different internet that's being generated on demand. So if you need, you know, everybody would get their own websites made immediately with whatever they were interested in or wanted or whatever. It's just generating them as one-offs, and it can already do this. So yeah.
Well,
so, but it's definitely more out there, more, you know, in the public eye, and people are talking about it. Unfortunately, yeah, a lot of people are like, yeah, so what? It's coming into, you know, I'm also really interested in 3D printing, and now I'm starting to get into engraving and some other things, and you can now, with AI, you could, in Midjourney, you could take and generate an amazing image. You can take that image, give it to another AI, and it will create an incredible depth map. And then you can give that to another AI, and it'll format it all so that it can automatically laser engrave it for you. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah.
Did you say death mask?
Depth map. So
Say it for me one more time. Depth.
depth map.
Okay. And what
Yeah.
is that?
That is a two-dimensional grayscale representation of something that's partially 3D. So think of like a bas relief.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
that's cool.
yeah, so you can take a 2D image and AI can interpret that into a 3D bas relief data. So I could take a screen capture of your face. It can make basically a bas relief 3D version of your face that I could then run through a CNC router or a laser engraver, and I would get a bas relief 3D version of your face just from a picture of you. Or
Wow.
from anything AI generates. So it's making its way into all these little niche things too.
So I forgot to look up like what are the good things AI is doing? And I just found an article that talked about creating accessibility. One of the things, and this is an article that came out this month, and it simply talks about Midjourney will automatically write all alt text for images for disabled people. Alt text describes the image screen readers use to help people with disabilities decipher the images on a page. So, and it's also helping a lot, I guess, with the diagnosis of disabilities. Right now, AI is doing that. But I can't, I'm going to go to the scare. So this is good. Let's give AI. Yeah, this is good. This is good. However, in the same article, it says, I was going to do this. Researchers are working on ways to integrate AI into education at all levels. For example, researchers from this university, I'm not going to say it, developing AI that can customize lesson plans based on a student's needs. So that actually starts to point to the scary thing we've talked about before, which is you don't need teachers anymore because you have this incredible AI entity that you program, you send all the information about your child, and you don't need people.
Well, yes, Matt, but what this does is it frees up teachers to be more expressive, like the artists that were freed up by the camera.
And I agree. I know you're being it I just see that, this was a tech magazine too that article is from. So, it's the happy face side that we heard early on too, people who were trying to, is this the Star Trek side of it, or is it the Skynet side? Which one are we going to invest in? And I still don't, I don't think that, have we come to the tipping point where we can actually decide is definitely going this way? I mean, if you're in Gaza or Ukraine and they're using AI systems to systematically destroy a whole village, I guess it is on the Skynet side.
That would be on the Skynet side. Well, okay, so like the AI stuff now that can instantly generate websites and content, that could be super useful. Star Trek side, I mean, even just accessibility again. If you have a website and it's not accessible by people with disabilities, this could just generate whatever a person needs to be able to access it and get what they need from it, which would be awesome. It's certainly easy to think of all of a few downsides to AI being able to generate its own internet.
So is AI enticing you at all as a creative? Is it interesting? I mean, you've related it a number of times. I did this. I remember hearing, like I tried it many times and I just eventually came to the place where is that all there is? I'm paraphrasing what you said, but has that?
I'll tell you what, no, for the most part, it isn't sustaining any sort of interest for me, other than, and this goes back to a little bit the 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 positive side of AI development, where you, instead of trying to create all these general things that do everything, you have AI for specific tasks. So AI that makes retopologizing a 3D model quicker and easier because it's just so tedious to sit there and move individual polygons. That I use. I like it. It just saves time, and it's just a very tedious thing to do. Even the whole depth map thing, creating a depth map from one of my own 3D models, I can do that without AI. It would be a much more tedious, boring process. Now I could use AI to make the 3D model and the depth map, and that's kind of where personally I've drawn the line. I'm like, okay, if I let it do that, okay, so maybe it can do that from a sketch of mine. That's great, but the modeling of itself is too much of I want my hand on it, and so yeah. So I guess where it's a specific task that it's making something, and it's not doing everything for me, I'm okay with, and I'll use it for things like that. But otherwise, things like Midjourney and all the video generators and all of that stuff and all the graphic design stuff, it doesn't leave me with anything.
Well, I mean, that's where too, for me, like I'm working on a graphic novel project right now, and I very easily, when I'm drawing, I'm like, God, this would be cool to see this guy move this way and this way, and how easy that would be to offer up to an AI app.
Yep.
So those things are always tempting. In this particular regard, I always have to remember, people. I'm losing out in a couple of ways with that. One of them is I don't learn how to animate anything. Two, the people who would animate it, if I ask them, don't get paid and employed. And three, I don't develop relationships with other human beings because I'm doing it with I'm having a machine do it for me. And then it also, like, well, I guess I gotta take this thing, ask a friend who's an animator, find some money and give that to her or
Right.
him.
Right.
Right. So,
Yep.
this is the decision that we're all going to have to make.
Yeah, it's there.
But I can see, yeah, just people. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you see like kind of, yeah, the line where I've come down on it, is if it's a tool, a specific tool for doing something within the process, but if it's doing everything or replacing everything, then it takes the joy out of it for me.
Yeah. And that's where some of the parallels, like using what Giotto used Michelangelo for was to size up his sketch this size to this size so that they could put it on the wet plaster, right? So when I have a copier, I can do that, to enlarge stuff. That's to me, that's kind of a parallel with AI.
Yeah.
If it's used that way and not, but for me, there's still, and I'm not commenting on what you're doing. I'm simply saying I can still see that there have been slaves that have been used and people's work that have been used in any aspect of AI. Now, come on, Matt, you could say that about any technology. People have been taking from others for millennia, to build their new thing, and then culture grows and becomes happier and healthier, hopefully. But these are just the things that I still think about.
Yeah.
And I can't not use AI now. Just about everything, any technology has some form of AI in it. So,
Yep. I ordered a new I ordered a laser engraver so I can engrave some of my art into different things, and it has AI built into it. And it's pretty handy if you have an object that you want to engrave on. Once it looks at it, because it has a camera, it understands what it is and what the design going on it. You can just lay a whole bunch of other objects on there that are the same, and it recognizes that as the same thing. It doesn't matter how they're oriented or how they're sitting on the bed. It understands it, and it'll just do the same thing to all of them automatically, because it understands what it's looking at, which is great. I mean, I think that's cool. But
so it understands the material too. Like if you
yes.
did it into cotton instead of steel, it knows what, because it's AI, it knows what cotton is and it knows what steel is, and it's going to act differently on two different kinds of materials.
Yep.
Wow.
But the AI is also built into it so that, let's say I want to burn a design onto a piece of slate or a coaster, it has something similar to Midjourney built in. So if you don't want to put your own art in, you can just say, give me a Viking with a sword for a, in a circular design, and it will give that to you. And so,
but you can't copyright it yet, so that's all good. You can't make money off of it, so it's okay. Even though it's taking from all the other designs ever made by anybody of a Viking.
Yes. Yes. Now, the AI that's making depth maps for my 3D models, I would be surprised if that was used or trained on, like, I can't conceive of what that would have stolen from or been trained on without permission, since it's more it figuring out the math from going from my model to
that might be like just trained on geology,
right?
Apps,
yeah, so,
or geography or whatever.
Geometry.
Okay.
Yes.
We have gone over the time we said we would, but that happens just about every time. Nobody needs to be chastised for that.
Nope.
So we're gonna do coming up. We're gonna do a review of what's new. Like we do these every couple of months, right? Like, okay, let's look over all of the big things. And we're gonna see if we can get. I'm at a university right now where I'm teaching for the summer. See if we can get some students involved in the discourse. So we're encouraging, we want to have more people talking about this. The more we talk about it, the more we're present with it, and that actually have our voice involved in the development of it simply by discourse. That's my belief.
I like it. Cool.
And that includes all the people who see this.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Let's get on the Calathumpian parade and let's have a talk.
Knows? Maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson will see this and want to debate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
If you are watching this, Neil, I am a big fan, just so you know.
Yeah. This is not criticism of Neil deGrasse. We think he's a cool guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep. See you, Matt.
I'll see you around. Bye, everybody.